Welcome to Code Creative. I'm Travis Tolson. And with us as always is Sarah Tolson.
The other Tolson.
No, I think we've established
you're the other Tolson
I'm
now?
the other Tolson now.
I love how that works. You've been in this industry for 10 years and I come along and...
Experience doesn't matter when talent enters the room.
What? No. Okay. Anyway. So here we are. We figured out our streaming laggy issue, we think.
I think we've got the issue worked out. The Wi-Fi, I had to jump off Wi-Fi, so we are now hardwired into the router and have the full speed available, and I think we're set to go. So to kick us off, why don't we jump over and we can try that recap again.
All right, let's do it.
All right, ready?
Okay.
Go for it.
All right, so let's see. Last time we started off talking about setting up this dev environment because we're going to actually try and build some dev tools to enhance what we can do on platform with tools off platform, right? So to do that, we were setting up a dev environment and you were showing how everything starts with the server, you put it on and all that good stuff. You showed us how to put Docker on your server, which I could put on just my normal computer because I'm not fancy. I don't have a server.
I mean, you do.
No. What if I want to put it on my computer like a normal human being that does not have a server? That's okay, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So we put Docker on there. It's this app you download, and that allows you to create these little containers you see up here, which can be different build environments that can all run at once.
Yep.
So this allows you to build, this allows you to experiment with your application you're developing in different build environments. Also is a good way to ensure that multiple devs can work on your application without having to worry about different build environments and stuff like that, right?
Right.
Okay, so Arrow. Okay, we have Docker, and then the thing we use to actually build stuff in our little Docker container is called NodeJS, which is an engine, or is V8 the engine? There's a whole car analogy here, but it's a thing. You download it, you install it, and it is we were using it in VS Code.
It's a JavaScript runtime environment.
Yes, that thing. But we're using that so that we can build JavaScript run applications outside of the browser. And so you were showing us this whole process as our kinky dinosaur that Andrew pointed out the other day. So the other day, what we were trying to do is talk about like this whole idea of hooking in and talking to a ServiceNow instance. And we talked about using a mid server that periodically goes to the dev environment or whatever environment to find out if there's any jobs that need to be done. And then the server or the dev environment will push the work to the server, and it's like this big circle of life. I like my colors, by the way, but the glitter pen is still my favorite. I'm really feeling this. And then we started talking about setup steps, and that's when we started having all the laggy issues. And
I went ahead and undid the setup steps that we did previously so I can start all over again. So for those not paying attention to the chat, Phil asked while we were doing the recap if we had used the now CLI specifically for custom commands. And no, I have not. Phil has apparently, and it seems to be based on scripted REST APIs, which that's really cool and honestly similar to kind of what we're going to be doing here. It's just that what we're going to be doing here will be completely off-platform as opposed to using the now CLI feature. Although we will be using some CLI. That's command line interface.
Okay.
You gave me that look.
Man, I can't wait till we get video on so people can just see the looks that I give you.
Phil says that he's created a table and columns directly from terminal. Oh, that's cool.
But why would you do that when you have a nice interface that you can just go and click and do the thing and call it a day?
I would
is it quicker if you once you know how to do it?
I wouldn't say it's quicker. It's more so from an integration standpoint. When you
so you could have an integration that's like a step in the process that you're teaching it to do. I don't care
command
about the
line,
clicks, Phil.
click, click, click. Command line is something that every system understands, basically. Every computer has a command line at the base. And so command lines, a lot of the programs that, a lot of what I'm going to be using today has various command lines to it and uses command line for those tools. It's just something that system admins are familiar with.
See what Phil says, okay, so that's cool. He says you could standardize and batch create data models.
Right.
Okay, so I could see like using the terminal to do part of a long string of commands or something like that on the quick. That would be cool.
Yes, and that's the thing, is that when you have a command line, you can use those batch scripts to do whatever you want, as opposed to having to use specific languages and application architectures and everything else. So, all right. So
you're going to set up. Are we going to go through the steps again?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and we're going to be testing out some of these new tools again. So bear with us.
When we talk about YAMLs, you have to show my camel because I'm very proud of it.
All right. So let's zoom in over here to the VS Code. And the first thing we're going to do is create a new folder. What was I calling this thing? Now Army Knife?
Yeah, now Army Knife, which bothers me, but okay.
Yeah, it's like Swiss Army Knife, but, for ServiceNow. Okay. I'm going to zoom.
You can make it a Snow Army Knife.
I'm going to zoom out while I'm doing some of this stuff, and I'll kind of zoom in and out to show the important parts as we're doing this.
Yeah, you're kind of making me dizzy.
Yeah, it's kind of jarring when you're moving around.
You and all your new toys.
I know. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to create a Dockerfile. So let's zoom in on this Dockerfile real quick, and we'll take a look at it. So basically, like we discussed last time, this is setting up your Docker container.
In your directory where you're saving everything, and then you're running npm to set that up.
Right.
So you're installing NodeJS stuff into this container so you can use it.
Yes. So the container is going to be running Linux. It is going to be copying the image from... In fact, I think I can do a thing here. Wow. Ha, that's cool. Okay, anyway.
You just did that to play with your toy.
I did, and it was fun.
Do you have to hold it down to do that? Okay, that's cool. Anyway,
we're
learning.
So it's going to copy the Node 12 image. That's an image prepared by the Node.js folks that already has all the tools installed for Node.js. We're going to change our working directory, basically navigate the file structure to go into the user source app folder, which is a special one for the Node.js image. We're going to copy the package.json file from our folder over here to the folder in the container. Then on line 11 here, we're going to run npm install, which uses the Node Package Manager to install all the dependencies in that package.json. And then we are going to copy the app, basically everything in here, from here into our container. And that is the gist of that particular thing. So Phil asks, is Docker basically just a local virtual machine?
That's a really good question.
So in a roundabout sort of way, kind of. So a virtual machine contains an entire full copy of an operating system. A container is not a true virtual machine. It's actually a process segregation, basically. In some ways, it emulates a virtual machine environment. So you have your own separate environment that you're working in. Basically, if you make any changes to the operating system files, the container will have a copy of it, but otherwise use the underlying operating system's files. So your host OS provides all of the all the operating system pieces that are needed, and then the Docker container runs a slimmed down environment of it, I guess you could say. Phil asks, do I know of Solaris? Yeah, the Solaris OS from Sun Microsystems. He says they had containers. Yeah, Linux also has containers as well. I forget what they're referred to as, but they do have their own specification for containers. I want to say all three of them are fairly similar in their implementation. It is not a fully virtualized operating system. It is a lighter weight system that runs as a process on top of an operating system, but it does give you similar system separation.
Gotta keep them separated.
Yes. It's what helps you keep your environments separate from one another.
Maybe that's what the song was about.
So I do want to use this same Dockerfile for now Army Knife. This one does exactly what I want. Oops. So that's just called Dockerfile, no extension on the end of it. And then we're going to, then I need a Docker Compose, which Docker Compose is the
YAML!
The YAML camel. The YAML file that contains the instructions for how to build the overall container. So this is what adds the services creates those service containers and sets up.
So it like builds the environment.
Yeah.
That's what I put in my notes anyway.
The Dockerfile and the Docker Compose work together to build the environment. Phil says, really useful because npm install is a command required when building custom components, and it gets the dependencies from the relevant JSON file. Yes. Yeah, so all of the off-platform tools that ServiceNow's been creating lately, the Now CLI, and everything associated with it, the new components, all of that is using Node.js as well.
Because I'm pissed off at somebody at ServiceNow and they hate me.
So a lot of the concepts that I'm using here will apply to those as well. So I am going to copy most of let's copy this one over and then we'll edit as needed.
Are you going to make this like stack available somewhere?
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. So what I'm doing right now is I am actually setting up a development environment. This is a much higher level thing than a lot of developers are realistically going to deal with most of the time. Most of the time, developers will download a tool like Create React App that already has the build environment set up. You just use it for development purposes.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about developing for service portals. I just open my little widget editor window and all my stuff is there and I just do the thing and move on with my life.
Yeah, so once I have this set up, I'll put it in a Git repository and folks will be able to then use this themselves. Mm-hmm. So first of all, the Docker Compose specifies what version of Docker Compose it's using. Mm-hmm. Different versions have different structures. We're using 3.1. Then we define a series of services, which in this case, I'm going to change this one to the now Army Knife service. And that's just giving the service a name.
Okay. Is this like the $sign blah 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 thing that you made?
No. Those are Angular services, which is completely different concept.
Okay.
The services here will actually create. You'll see the services when I flip over to the. Here, let me show everybody and not just you. When I flip over to this Docker tab, you see how I've got this _glidefast labs.
Yes.
So that is one of my services that is currently running is the _glidefast labs service. So this one will then have the now Army knife. And if I open up this service, you'll see that there's files and an entire folder system under here. This is the container where everything exists.
Okay.
So in the Docker Compose, I am just giving this new service a name. Build is where the Dockerfile is, which is dot or the current folder. User is node. That's from the NodeJS image. Same working directory. Setting up 2 volumes. Again, this is just part of setting up the NodeJS environment.
Yeah.
That's more complicated stuff I'm not going to dive into.
Yeah,
Then we have to expose ports. If we want any kind of network connection with the Docker container, then we have to expose the port that we want to use. So like internet connections usually go over port 80. Or 443, I think, for HTTPS.
All right, let me stop it. Let's back up. Volumes. If I am grabbing this out of your Git repository and setting up my thing, can I just like copy and paste and use this one?
Yes.
Okay. How about the ports? Can I do that with the ports too?
Yes. If you pull this from the Git repository after I set it up, you will be able to just run it as is without making changes.
Okay.
So I am going to expose... let me pick 9,000. Power level is over 9,000.
I am so glad that you occasionally like.
That was not intentional. I chose 9,000 randomly,
You
but
chose 9,000 because it's a nerd number.
oh Lord. I should not need the environment variable. That was specific to my other environment.
Do we need to explain why that's a nerd number? Or just let people wonder?
I think the people that know.
The people that need to know.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And then command is like run the thing.
When Docker kicks off, you have to run some kind of command. That command should be long-lived. That is, it should keep running. Ideally, you're running some kind of server.
You gotta have something to start. Kind of like how when we were doing the store state and I had to do like the initial load thing, so there was something there.
Yes, kind of like that.
There has to be something there from the start.
Not only something there, but something has to keep running. You have to have like a server or a process running in the background. Otherwise, what will happen is the Docker container will come up and then it'll go immediately back down again.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm going to get rid of these 2 volumes. Volumes is when you want to store data, when you want to keep data persistent.
Yes.
Then you have to have a volume, which we may get there. I don't know.
Depends. Do you want to listen to music or not? I totally just lost my thing.
Phil says, Phil wants to know why 9,000 is a nerd number.
Oh my gosh.
That's
so
all you.
If you've ever seen the anime Dragon Ball Z, okay, one of the main characters in the show, Vegeta, who is just like the resident badass, he makes it to Earth and he's like going to conquer Earth. And he's got this little spyglass thing that goes over one eye, and it's like a little meter, and you can see like the power level of different people, right? How powerful they are as a character. You know, and he gauges how strong his opponents are this way. Well, one of the more famous lines in the thing is when he finally sees Goku, the main character of Dragon Ball Z, through his little power meter thing that he wears on the side of his face, and he's like, his power level is over 9,000. So anytime you see like a Z index in CSS or something like that, and 9,000 is a number, more than likely it was chosen by some nerd that has watched Dragon Ball Z a time too many. It's glorious.
Okay,
And
so
I lost my sketch. My little thing on your thing. So I'm using his laptop to do the sketch notes with, and it fell asleep on me. So anyway, so this YAML keeps running, and it gets tired.
Well, the YAML doesn't run. The YAML just describes.
The YAML tells it what to run.
Yeah, YAML's kind of like HTML.
Oh.
It's a descriptive language, not a programming language.
Oh, so
not a logic language.
Tells it what to show, not necessarily what to do.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
It describes what the result of the container should be, and then Docker reads it and or Docker Compose reads it and executes from there.
Phil's never seen Dragon Ball Z. Dude, that was like a part of my education growing up. Go check it out.
All right, so what I am doing now is I am, so I pulled up a local file here, this test folder, which is just the one that I use when I want to figure out what certain npm commands do. So I need to build my package.json file, and I don't always know exactly what to put in there because you've got stuff like this here.
So is this step 3?
Yes, we're now going to be working on the package.json file.
Okay.
Phil says YAML is a human-readable data serialization language. It is commonly used for configuration files and in applications where data is being stored or transmitted.
That is absolutely true, but it rhymes with camel, and that's funny. That's been like
Lord
the
have
ongoing
mercy.
joke here, so...
Phil, I have to ask, did you look that up or did you just know? Because, I mean, that was just a beautiful...
That's like
that was
Wikipedia
textbook.
quality stuff
That
right
was
there.
textbook right there. He says, YAML targets many of the same communications applications as extensible markup language, XML, but has a minimal syntax which intentionally differs from SGML. Copy and paste.
Hey, good job with
We'll
the
still
copy
take
and
it.
paste, my dude.
Thanks, Phil.
So we're making our JSON package.
Yeah, we're making our package.json file. So this is specific to Node.js.
Okay, so what is a package.json
It
file
is
do?
basically what the Docker... it is the docker-compose file equivalent for Node.js.
Okay.
It describes how Node.js should build the application and what scripts and options are available.
Okay, so that's the package. I'm trying to take the notes.
So this npm install Express. Express.js is a web framework. It lets you build web applications.
Yeah.
It lets you build websites is what it does. So
It's just called Express?
Express.js.
Oh.
It is a web server, or has a web server in it. So what I'm going to do is, if I take a look here at this package.json, it's currently mostly empty. Because this is just my test project where I experiment with running commands. So I'm going to close this real quick. And I'm going to put that npm install express, and we're going to do save dev. Nah, we'll do save. Save versus save dev decides where in the package JSON it's getting saved. Is it being saved as a production dependency or as a development dependency?
Oh, okay.
Save is for production, save dev is for development. So I'm going to run this.
So you're doing your code in production?
No.
Well, you're just doing save.
I am saving it as a production dependency.
Oh.
Very different from coding in
Yeah,
prod.
okay.
Okay, so I'm going to hit enter. And now you're going to see this run, and it is downloading and installing. This is pulling all the node modules, all the different node packages that are required for Express. Okay, so it has now installed. And now I'm going to take another look at this package.json, and you will see that it has changed under the dependencies.
Oh, and it has the Express in there now.
Right. So I've now installed Express into this one, and it looks like it didn't have anything else that installed with it. Basically, I'm looking at over here in the files, and the package.json was updated, and node modules were added, and that's it. So no random binaries or additional structures were added, and that makes me happy.
Keeping that code lean.
Phil says save dev is for locally applicable settings, but not for those things which get packaged. Basically, save dev is for it's really your development dependencies. It's when you go into whatever your production environment is, you will not be installing those dependencies. Phil says, this stuff is super relevant to wider ServiceNow off-platform dev. Yes. This is diving off the deep end of going off-platform. So yeah, this is cool stuff. But we will be integrating it to the platform, which to me is that much cooler.
You know what? You keep using that I word and it kind of terrifies me, so...
Phil says, I failed to get a t-shirt in last year's Hacktoberfest due to not knowing what he was doing.
Nice.
That's okay, Phil.
I need to make us some cool ServiceNow related shirts. We don't have enough like inside joke ServiceNow type swag. We can make us some t-shirts.
All right, so the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my old package.json from GlideFast Labs, and I'm going to pull that over.
Oh, it's just a copy and paste, right?
Yeah, and then I'm going to edit it. So once again, zoom in here.
Is this step 4? Or is this still step 3?
This is still step 3. This is setting up the package.json. So now Army Knife is the name of this package. Version 0. Private is true, at least for now. We're not going to be doing rollup. So this is the script. You can basically that npm run some script name will run these scripts in here. Rollup is what I'm using on GlideFast Labs because I'm doing a build process for that one. For this one, we are going to be running Express, and I want to say it had it in here. No, it did not. Let's see. npm init, npm install express. Let's check the hello world. Node app.js. See, I got a feeling that, that's what I needed. Okay. So Express has an Express generator, and this is actually what I wanted. I didn't want to install just Express. I wanted to use their Express generator. So some Node packages have a command line interface, a CLI, that allows you to automate fancy things. In this case, setting up an Express application. So this is going to set us up with all of the basic code required. So I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to jump back into this little test folder here. And we're going to come down here into my terminal and put that npx express generator in there. And we're going to let that guy build. Yes, continue. Okay, so it built out an application. There we go. That's what I was expecting last time. You can see here that it's no longer just node modules. It's added public, routes, views, app, and binary.
And your command did that?
That command, npx express generator, built all that.
Okay.
The create React app stuff does the same thing. It builds out a scaffold. It builds out a skeleton or a template. Okay. You'll see all of those words used pretty much interchangeably. But that sets you up with a basic application that you can then modify, as opposed to doing what I had to do on the GlideFast Lab side, which was build the entire thing myself.
So this gives you so these first 3 steps give you like the environment with everything you need to actually start building.
Yes. And so you can see here that also gave me a start script. Okay.
What's the start script do?
It is going to run the node command on bin www. So it's going to run this script here.
But what does that script do?
For that, I'm going to say, hold on a second, and you will see. Because there's no substitute for seeing this stuff in action.
Is it going to do a thing?
Yes. It will do a thing.
I make you love my descriptive language.
All right, so then I'm going to copy the dependencies.
Naming variables is so much fun for me.
And we're going to put these as dependencies, not dev dependencies, because I'm going to treat this as a production tool, not as a development tool. Okay, so now I've got all that set. Now I have to copy the... all right, so Phil asked, where did cookie parser come from? Is that GDPR compliant out of the box? I don't know. The cookie parser, I don't think it injects cookies by default. I think you have to explicitly tell it to, but I'm not positive on that. I guess we'll kind of find out. So if I end up in a jail over in Europe or getting sued in Europe, you'll know why.
Yeah, please don't do that. That would be very inconvenient for me. At least wait till the toddler is out of diapers.
All right, so now I'm going to take these folders here, and I'm going to... These are the ones created by that npx command, the express generator. And I'm going to pull those into now Army Knife. So now I've copied everything that npx built, and the express generator built is now in now Army Knife on my server. So I should be done with that at this point. Carlos asks, what tech involved prevent the node module folder to be sent when we push it to the server? What tech involved prevents the node module folder from being sent when we push it to the server? Pushing to which server, Carlos? So like I know that generally speaking, when you push to Git, you usually don't want to push node modules.
Okay. You
want to install the node modules whenever you pull it down. The node modules is the reusable code that you're using that everybody else made. And you do not want to push that to Git.
Oh, yeah, because that would be a huge freaking mess.
Right. So you would have a massive amount of modules in your repository that had nothing to do with your written code.
Yeah, so when you push that somewhere or to wherever...
We will want to add that to a .git ignore file.
And by adding it to that ignore file, like it wouldn't push it up. Is it the
correct.
Same thing when you're pushing up stuff to like ServiceNow, like components and things? Is there like an ignore file you add it to?
Not 100% sure. The NodeJS, so the ServiceNow's tool is based on Webpack, and Webpack is going to walk through your code. And it's going to identify all of the code that you use to create your component. And it will compile that into the smallest package that it can manage without risking corrupting the code, while still keeping it compatible to your current code.
Yeah.
And it does a lot of fancy stuff to make that happen.
So maybe it looks through and is like, oh, we have that on our side, so we don't need that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Webpack uses what's called tree shaking. So it builds a tree of your your code.
You were telling me about this, and then it shakes the tree, and it's like anything that's not attached to a branch, all the like orphan code you're not using falls out.
Yes. So when it looks through the code, any code that isn't touched by your what's called your entry point, the main point of your code, anything that's not reached by that or reached by children of that gets thrown out.
So the image I have in my head is when you play Minecraft, because like anybody listening to me, don't act like you've never played Minecraft. But like when you play Minecraft and you have like a tree, but then you have like the random bushes that are like just hanging out in the middle of the air. The fire doesn't get to those because they're not attached. That's like the thing that comes to mind for me. But anyway, maybe that wasn't a great analogy.
Well, let's see. I think I'm actually set up at this point.
So we have an environment.
So, we have a project. This is our project folder.
Okay, so we've got we can start slinging code now?
Some code has already been slung.
Well,
what we're going to do now is we are going to build this container. So the first thing I need to do to build the container is I'm going to open a terminal at that folder, which is real easy in Visual Studio Code, and this is why I use VS Code for everything nowadays. It's got Docker tools built into it if you install the plugins for it. They've got an entire remote development tools package. I am actually using that right now. This is, as you can see up here, connected via SSH to my server. So I'm going to open up a terminal on that server under the Now Army Knife folder. And we'll zoom out. And if you take a look down here in the terminal, you'll see that I've got the projects, Now Army Knife. Why is that projects? That's weird.
You heard the projects.
Oh, it's because of that up there. Got it. Okay, never mind.
The thing is telling you your code's janky.
Jeez.
So wait. So we're building the container now?
Yes, now we're going to build the container.
Okay.
So
we've built an environment, and now we're going to build a container.
Docker compose up. Build. So this is the command we're going to use in order to use the docker-compose.yml configuration file that we set up. Docker Compose is going to read that file and build it. If we did not use Docker Compose, I would have to have done a Docker run and added a whole bunch of stuff to the command line. I would have had to have taken a whole bunch of manual steps. With this, I can just do Docker Compose up, which builds
it
up
your command
container.
Or okay.
So I hit enter, and you'll see it's building the network, it's building all the things. You can see it going through all the steps, creating the images, or pulling the images down. Successful. Oh, and we have an error.
Why do you have an error?
Okay, so we can see here that it created Now Army Knife. It attached to it error missing script dev. A complete log of this can be found here. All right, I know what the problem is. So it says missing script dev. If you remember correctly, in my Docker Compose, we said npm run dev. Right here on line 14 is my command, npm run dev. But in my package.json, my scripts, I have npm. It would actually be npm run start, because start is the name of my script in this configuration.
Yeah, that's actually the one I've seen before.
So npm run start is the command I want to run. And this actually also gives me the opportunity to point out that, as soon as the container had nothing else to run, it shut down. It did not keep running. So now I should be able to go back. Hit up arrow to go to the previous one. Hit enter. We're going to let that build again. It is building. Zoom out real quick. Let's see. Phil says projects is workspace and inside. Yeah, Phil. The projects is my workspace name up here, and projects is also this folder name on that particular server. Now, what's odd here is I would have expected... All right, so I'm going to hit Control-C to kill the current process. That was not quite what I expected. First of all, I want to check this port 9000. Because I suspect that Express does not use 9000 by default. And if we take a look right here in the www file of the binary folder,
it's 3000.
Port is equal to whatever we pass as the process environment, or 3000. I'm going to change the default to 9000 in this case.
This is like doing the important tag in your CSS.
Actually, no, let's not change the code. Let's leave the code alone.
You have to figure out why it's not running your thing.
I'm going to add an environment variable to this.
So you're not going to use the important tag.
No, I'm not going to use the important tag. So this should change the environment variable in this container to set the port to 9000. Actually, now that I think about it, I believe the correct is actually equal to, and I think I have to do that.
Syntax.
I think that's the right way to do it. We'll give this a shot. So I'm going to do a clear, and we will run this again.
I love watching you like troubleshoot and talking your way through it like you planned these bugs, but I know you didn't.
No, I'm just screwing up.
There's a lot more bad language when I'm troubleshooting.
All right, so real quick, Phil asked, does YAML care about indents like Python? Yes, I believe it does. I don't know how sensitive it is to white space, but I do believe it is white space sensitive. And the syntax is important. I actually got an error earlier where the YAML was telling me because I did, I was doing host name, and I did host is localhost, and it came back and it said, no, that's wrong. This is supposed to be a string, not an object. And so I ended up having to change it to something like that.
That's so weird. Where can we learn about the syntax of this?
I wish I could tell you. Most of this stuff I learned just by Googling when I ran into specific problems. Because there is so much going on here. You've got the YAML syntax. You've got the docker-compose file structure. You've got Docker-specific commands. You've got NodeJS, the package.json, JSON format. There's so many bindings and layers in setting up this environment, which is why I say this is a really, really high level. This is stuff that architects do. This is, you know, if you're stepping off of ServiceNow platform, this is not something that most lower level devs are going to do. When you're working in a product development company, the architecture team is going to be building out these tools, and the development team is going to do Docker compose up and get themselves an environment and start writing code.
Yeah, this is why when the poll came back and was like, hey, let's do that dev heavy stuff off platform, I was like, no.
So next what I'm going to do here is you can actually, through VS Code, you can attach to the terminal inside of the container. I can attach to its operating system.
Well, that's fancy.
So I right click and I hit attach shell, and now down here you'll see that I'm actually in this in that node environment now. So I can type env to look at the environment variables, and you can see port is set to 9000, so that environment variable was passed over. So that is good. Unfortunately, I don't quite see what I would expect to see, because I thought it would spit out a let's see, what's Phil saying here? Being able to segregate these things and understand what is responsible. This example, this is a YAML issue. Yeah, it's being on a single shared platform is actually alien to a lot of devs, but in ServiceNow, it's the polar opposite. Yeah, for folks who have developed primarily on ServiceNow, ServiceNow has, like Sarah.
Hey, I developed on WordPress and,
yes, you do.
Squarespace too.
Yes, you have.
I'm a designer, and my whole site is like out-of-box Squarespace because I'm lazy.
But when a lot of your development experience is on ServiceNow, ServiceNow is the build environment. It is the build tool. Like even there are a lot like
vigorous head nodding.
Yeah, there's a lot of developers that have developed on Service Portal and know Service Portal, but have very little understanding of the Angular JS underneath it, because ServiceNow abstracts that away. Mm-hmm. So having that shared platform is a huge advantage, and it's one of the reasons why it's so fast to develop applications. I mean, I know, Sarah, you yourself have probably developed applications on ServiceNow faster than it's taking me to set up this development
Oh my
environment.
gosh, yes. I would have like a fully running UI by now.
Right, and that's one of the huge advantages of a platform like ServiceNow is you don't have to set up the development environment. And this is before even talking about setting up database and access control and credentials.
Oh gosh,
and,
yes. And what killed me is when I started diving into the stuff for the Now Experience framework, and they're like, oh, install Now CLI, blah blah blah. But for those of us that are not used to that traditional and set up your dev environment sort of thing, they left out so many steps, and I was like on the edge of tears. I was so lost. So yeah, this is so
it did work.
this is so far away from what many of us portal developers are used to. And there are some of us that came from like traditional development, but it's a learning curve. And
It is.
There's a huge leap. There's with no bridge in between that. Yeah. So just I'll be happy when you put this up on Git and I can just download it and use it.
Well, oddly enough, it's actually running right now.
Well, fine then.
So I was usually with Express there is an output where it tells you that it is now listening on port, whatever port you've set it to. It did not happen, and so I was trying to troubleshoot why it didn't happen. What I did was I added a port forward. So basically, on the container, the Express.js server is running on, it's listening on port 9000.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's listening for connections. That port is exposed to the host server because of, remember when we set the exposed port in the YAML? From 9, and we bound port 9000 on the host to port 9000 on the container.
Yeah.
Well, we had to bind one more port, and that was binding my desktop computer, the one I'm working on, port 9000, to my server environment's port 9000. So now what's happening is when I go into localhost 9000, when I go to localhost 9000, it is taking from this browser and it is sending it to this computer, port 9000. The port forward in Visual Studio Code is intercepting it and forwarding that request to the host server, port 9000. And then the host server, port 9000, because of our Docker configuration, our Docker Compose right here. Oh, cool. You hover over it, it gives you a little explanation. So the host is forwarding from port 9000 to container port 9000. So it forwards that message on to the Express.js.
It's like the Port Pony Express.
Yeah, kind of. And so the net result is that if we come over here, you can see Welcome to Express. We're actually hitting the web server.
Okay.
So now we can actually start doing some for real coding and such.
Ooh, for real coding.
Um,
And this is after building the container, and then we can do for real coding.
yes, our environment is now completely set up. It is now usable. Now we may have to, in order to add other Node.js packages, which we will have to.
Yeah.
We may have to, or we will have to tear down and rebuild the environment. There are ways of getting around that with hot module reloading and stuff like that, but the value of a lot of that stuff is more important when you have larger projects and more people. It's useful, but it can also be quirky to set up. It's imperfect. There can be bugs with it and issues with it. And so you have to balance the complexity of your development environment against the speed that you need to develop at. So the purpose of the hot module reloading is to increase your speed. If you're one developer, how much is that going to benefit you versus the time it's going to take you to set it up, configure it, and make it run?
Okay.
51 minutes, Phil says.
Nice. Are we shooting for a certain amount or something?
Um,
I mean, you mentioned cookies earlier, so at some point I'm going to need cookies.
I think we'll kind of go for like maybe another 10 minutes here, and then we can shut it down for the night. I'll just kind of show the basics of Express.js and what we're dealing with on it. And that will tee us up and set us up for next time, where we'll bring in probably Axios, the Axios package, which will let me actually integrate into my personal dev environment.
Okay, so the fourth step was like building that container.
Yep.
Which is what we just finished, and so we're gonna look at what we have existing in our container right now, what Express.js is.
Yeah.
And then next time we'll look at adding some other packages, and that'll be step 5.
Yes.
Okay.
So if I turn around and I take a look in here, first of all, you'll see my environment has been built and it is running. It has files, and if I go into that user, source, app, the working directory,
Yeah.
you can see binary folder, node modules, public, routes, views, app.js, our Dockerfile. All that stuff got copied into this environment. That was that copy step in the Dockerfile.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that is now in here. But what's cool is that, so these folders here, in this Docker environment, are separate folders from these ones over here on the host.
Mm-hmm.
They're copies of one another, but they're not the same. But what's cool is that because we have bound these volumes, any change I make to these folders and content on the host will copy over.
Oh, that's convenient.
So yeah, that's one of the really cool parts about developing this stuff. So now, if I take a look at the app.js, this is kind of the setup for Express.js, and this was built by that generator, that Express generator. You can see all the basic setups. You can see some of the routes. So like, for example, the routes/users here is being used down here. app.use/users is the URL. /users is the URL. Users router is the code that handles it. So if I come over here and put /users, it says respond with a resource right here. Okay. Now, this is coming from this require right here. So I'm going to go to definition.
This is all like right-click functionality built into VS Code?
Yeah. Go to implementations. No, none of that. It's been a while since I've used this stuff.
And you can still put it together just like that?
Huh?
Like we've been going through this whole process, and you've just been like bit, but it's been a while since you've done this.
It's been a while since I've used the context menu to look stuff up.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, dude, that's some kind of memory. I can barely remember like where I put my keys.
So this require is going to require from routes/users. So folder routes users.js, or actually technically no, that's going to go to the index.js first. So we can see that routes, index, routes, users, this one. See how it says respond with a resource? So if I change this guy here, and we'll just give it a good old-fashioned hello world. Save it. Now, this may be where I have to rebuild. Let's see. Yep. See, this is where the hot module reload comes into play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill. I'm going to Control-C in my terminal. Up, enter to rebuild it. It's going to rebuild.
So once you get used to the how to do that, it looks like it's pretty.
Yep.
Oh, look, you made a thing.
So now what
we gotta get that out of JSON format.
Well, this one I was setting up specifically as a REST API.
Oh.
So basically what we will be able to do is we will be able to set up a web page. We will be able to set up some REST endpoints server side, and we will be able to integrate this REST server here with ServiceNow's REST endpoints. So we'll be able to set up credentials so that we can turn around and connect to our personal development environment and begin to manipulate that ServiceNow instance from a tool that we create separately. Phil, we got a couple questions here. So Carlos says, this is a front controller. Cool. MVC out of the box. Yes. So it is set up as, I wouldn't call it an MVC. Well, I mean,
what does MVC stand for?
Model View Controller.
Okay.
So I guess it is a server-side model view controller. I'm used to client-side model view controllers. So yeah, I guess it is model view controller on the server. Yeah, Express comes with that predefined and ready to go. So that makes it really easy to get up and going on building this stuff out. And then Phil says in custom component development, it does that hot build. What's the difference? Okay, so basically what you have here is, this goes back to that hot module reloading and live reload. These are two different concepts. Hot module reloading is more of a server-side concept where if I change something on the server, for example, this how this router works,
Yeah.
the server has to restart to apply those changes. Hot module reloading puts file watchers in place. So it actually watches the files for changes. Whenever you make a change and save it, it will kick an automatic process to restart that server. We can set that up with a tool called NodeMon. And we may look at setting that up eventually because that one will be worth speeding up our processes for. But there's also live reload, which is when I make a change to something the server, to like client scripts.
It's automatically refreshing.
The browser automatically refreshes. So
which
for
I've
example,
watched you do with some things, and it's neat.
Yeah, so I believe it's 1001. Oh, that one's not running.
That's
Here,
like-
let's throw this one up
like
real quick.
10,001. You have an extra zero in there.
Or 10,000. I think I've got it right.
Okay.
So
Just making sure.
So if I pop this guy,
there it is.
nice. I was getting feisty earlier today.
Yeah, you were. I'm sitting here trying to work, and you're like, boom, suck it. No!
So this is from the GlideFast Lab stuff I was working on. So if I come in here to my project, StoryForge, site, index.html.
I think you do the red text to trigger me.
No, that one I think is, I forget where that one is. I'll find it. But if I save, see how it automatically reloaded?
Uh-huh.
So that is live reload. 10,001 is more than 9,000.
Just broke my brain. What?
But yeah, so this here is set up with live reload in place. Live reload is when you change a client-side setup and it automatically pushes those changes across to the browser. And if I do a little inspect element here, you will see this live reload script here. That gets automatically injected into the script or into the HTML in order to set up that live reload.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of how that works. That's the difference between the hot module reload and the live reload.
Mm-hmm.
But what both of them enable you to do is keep focusing on writing code
Instead of having to
Control C, up arrow, enter, or wait for it to rebuild. Control C, up arrow, wait for it to rebuild.
Yeah, boss, I'm going to need you to do that so I can just download this off Git and it already does all that and I don't have to worry about it.
We will inevitably set that up because we'll end up setting NodeMon and live reload. I may set that up off.
It sounds like a Pokemon.
Off live. Because while it might make for an interesting live, I really want to spend more time on live integrating to ServiceNow, and maybe I can do something in Notebook or something on how I did it.
That sounds like a good way to go about it. Because like some of these different things, you could spend some time detailing the hows and the whys and the whats of this stuff, but we want to show some progress with this.
Right.
And you want to keep my attention, which is never strong to begin with.
But yeah, so ultimately you can see here that we've got the GlideFast Labs environment. We've got the now Army Knife environment. Both of them are running on Docker. Both of them using Node.js. One on port 9000, one on 10001, running two different applications. And aside from, unless we integrated them over the network, neither one can touch one another. They're completely separate environments. So, there's your advantage of Docker. The Node.js is giving us the power to set up our separate website that we can now build tools that integrate to ServiceNow. The first one I want to do, and I have a feeling I want to say I remember somebody already kind of started something along these lines. But what I want to do is I want to be able to rip code off of a server, download off of ServiceNow, download it, and be able to change the scope on it so that I can inject it into a different application. I want to say somebody's been working on stuff where you can like download an entire application and change the scope. And I kind of want to work in somewhat of that direction where I can like rip files off of ServiceNow. I really need a better process for being able to reclaim intellectual property that I've implemented on customers in customers' environments so that I can reuse it later. And also sometimes as a safety blanket for when the customer says, hey, we're cloning over. I'm really, really paranoid about that stuff. And having a button I can click that guarantees that I downloaded the right stuff.
That's nice.
It is going to be better than did I export the XML of the update set or did I export the update set as XML?
I have lost so much good code to that. And inevitably, when you showcase your service, like especially for Service Portal, you showcase like functionality you built out before in the design. They're like, oh, we want that one. Build it just like that. And I'm like, oh, that took me like 30 hours to build, and I didn't get the code. I'm getting smarter about that.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that I'm going to be working towards with this tool. I'm going to be building an off-platform tool that I can connect to multiple environments. One tool connect to multiple environments and be able to do some orchestration and administration across different environments. Really to improve my to improve my toolkit so that when I'm going into implementation projects, I have the tools that I need to both to perform administrative functions, but also for code analysis and gathering analytics and being able to inspect a customer's environment and say, hey, we noticed this. We'd really like to recommend that you do A, B, and C because it's going to set you up better.
I would love to build a tool that logs into my client instances and gathers the metrics I need to be like, so this is why your service portal sucks and this is what we're going to do to fix it.
And answering some of those tough problems too when you're developing, like one of those projects that you were on at one point and you were asking me for help on it and both of us threw our hands up and were like, well, this is going to be painful because it was an HR implementation where another partner had come in and just customized everything. And we had no idea what records were even out of box or baseline. Baseline's the right word.
Oh,
ServiceNow, do not send the SWAT teams after me.
Oh, really? You're not supposed to say out of box? I did not know that.
I don't know if it's still a thing, but once upon a time there was a big push to use the term baseline, and everybody was like, no, it's baseline, it's not out of box. I don't know if that's still a thing or not.
The only part of that, the only thing like that I've dealt with is like we all refer to like normal UI ServiceNow as like the back end, but you don't want to put a link in the header of the portal that says back end, you know? So we're like, this is the platform UI versus the service portal UI. So, yes.
Let's see. So that cross-instance development as an individual, how does that work across the team? Honestly, I don't know yet, Phil.
We'll figure it out.
But one of the reasons that I am setting this up as a third-party app is so that eventually, if there's demand for it and interest and reason to, maybe we can implement a multi-user environment for it where we can connect to multiple. I don't know. Maybe this thing just ends up being a dev tool that people can download and install as individuals to use. Maybe it ends up becoming something larger and we can turn around and, create a common environment thing. I don't know.
We could have it log in and just put like a message on the system logs that says like Sarah was here, and then log in. I'm gonna name it graffiti.
Maybe we'll do that as the first
oh
quote
my gosh,
unquote
Travis,
tool. That'll be our integration hello world. All it does is log Sarah was here.
That is amazing. I am on board. Yes.
But to make sure that we're making use of the front end aspect of it, we'll give a little text box so you can specify the message that you want to send.
I approve.
Yeah, Phil, as far as analyzing code goes, so most of your code analysis tools built into ServiceNow are all regex based. I want abstract syntax tree based. I want to do actual code analysis. I want to actually look at it and be able to identify when there's a nested glide record.
That would be freaking cool.
I want to be able to analyze potential performance risks. If somebody's having a performance problem, I want to click a button. I want to point at an instance, click a button, and have it come back and say, this is the most likely location of your performance issue because of X, Y, and Z. Another name for this tool could be Auto Travis, because honestly, this is a lot of the stuff that I end up doing on projects. People will come in and say, my widget is running slow as garbage and I don't know why. Can you tell me why? And I have to go in and look at this code manually and read through thousands of lines of code very quickly to try and find potential sources of the issues. And I know what I'm looking for, but me looking at it is faster than telling somebody else what they should look for. If I can take that subject matter expertise and put it into an automated tool, then I can save myself time. I can amplify everybody's skill sets around me. And I mean, isn't that kind of the heart and soul of what we do as developers, is making other people's lives easier and making other people better at their job by automating the stuff that we do well.
Man, just don't let anybody have Auto Travis, because then you'll be Auto Travising yourself out of a job.
I would it be the first time I've trained myself out of a job?
No.
I pride myself on training myself out of the job. I love teaching other people and equipping other people to do the job, and then I move on to something else. The world is full of problems. I will always find something else. I am not worried about that.
Yeah, you definitely found something else after you trained yourself out of the whole service portal gig. Which, thanks, by the way.
No problem. Happy to help.
Very much benefited from that. I'm the biggest portal snob now. You've just ruined me.
And yes, Phil, abstract syntax trees. We are going really, really deep off the edge on this particular series. This is going way down the rabbit hole. Docker, NodeJS, abstract syntax trees.
You are way
linting,
too excited
parsing. If you were looking for the insane stuff, you came to the right place. I think the next series we do after this will go back to platform and do more kind of trying to do more low-code applications to bring it back to ServiceNow land a little bit. But this idea, first of all, everybody was really interested in this idea. We had like over half the people wanted to see this.
Well, this is something different, and a lot of the material out there is all based on platform. You don't see a lot for how we can use tools off the platform to enhance our experience.
And maybe this will help future product developers, folks who have an idea for something to integrate with ServiceNow but aren't really sure how to go about it. This is how they all work. If you look at a lot of your product companies out there, they are using build tools like the GlideFast Labs one that I introduced in part one. They are using Webpack and roll-up style build processes to build their UIs, and they are using Go and Golang, Express.js on NodeJS. They're using these types of things to write applications that integrate to ServiceNow. This is, this is real-world product stuff here. So I am naturally very excited about it because, hey, it gives me a chance to build the tools I've been meaning to build. It removes my excuses for not doing so and puts my feet to the fire with people watching me do it.
I complain a lot about integrations and this off-platform stuff that gets away from my forte. But honestly, knowing the direction that ServiceNow is going with the Now Experience framework and everything, getting used to seeing this environment and understanding this environment better is going to help me and a lot of service portal developers that are in the same shoes I am, where we're used to this very easy to put together development environment, and they're just like, oh no, here you go. Hope you learned how to do this at some point. This will get us used to it and make us ready to create those really nice custom brand specific experiences on the new framework since they're taking away our service portal.
Well, and I want to encourage you, and I want to encourage everybody else who may be looking at this and thinking, wow, this is way over my head type stuff. Node.js I do have a little more experience on. I have been doing it for a little bit longer, especially with Express.js. But Docker is like brand spanking new to me. I am...
Yeah, one of our coworkers showed it to you, right?
I think Justin showed it to me. At the very least, Justin has helped me learn a lot more about it.
And then he shamed you into buying more tech for your setup.
Of course, that's
awesome.
That's his job.
I'm just sitting here like, at least do something to hide all the wires in our office, and then I'll be good.
But like this Code Creative, every project you see here, Code Creative.io, GlideFast Labs, now Army Knife, Nginx is a little bit older. Nginx is about 2 months old, I think. Or no, actually Nginx is older because Nginx was last year on when I was doing the salary survey tool.
Oh, yeah.
So
is freaking awesome.
That last year's salary survey tool is when I first started on Docker. All these other folders, all those are within the last 2 weeks. So I have not been doing this stuff for very long. So I mean, if there are experts out there that know more and you're like, wow, this guy's an idiot. Yeah, I am. I just got started on this stuff. I am still learning it myself and still getting used to some of these Docker environments myself. And I'm just kind of learning it as I go along. So, don't be afraid to dive in and just start learning it. You're going to encounter errors. You're going to encounter issues. You're going to encounter, stuff that's confusing. But Google is a very powerful tool. Carlos asks, is Git the best solution to accommodate 5 devs on the same custom app? Yes. Unequivocally. Absolutely. Undoubtedly. So ServiceNow does have a Git integration with Studio. And I guess, it's passable. It works. I'm not going to say it doesn't work, and it works okay. But it's more of a backup tool. it's not a good multi-developer environment. Team development is really what's meant for that on ServiceNow, but you have to have multiple environments for that, and that's just unrealistic for most companies. So offloading some of your code to Git is definitely an option. Building repositories outside is definitely an option. I know of a couple product companies that have set up their own build tool integration chains where they push their code up to ServiceNow using a tool much like this. There's also there's the VS Code plugin. And I haven't tried this yet, but there is a VS Code plugin. I have a workspace. No, not that one. I have a workspace, and it is ServiceNow Projects, I believe. Yeah, so you can see that I've got these scoped applications, and I've got the source code for them, and this is using the VS Code plugin. Now, I have not tried this yet, but I suspect that you can stash this into a Git repository, do your development here, and then push this code to ServiceNow, because that's what the VS Code plugin does. Yeah, Phil says VS Code plugin for ServiceNow is amazeballs. I agree. I love it. And I suspect that you can add Git and make this a Git file. I have not tried it, but I suspect that you can. And at that point, you would be able to push this code using the VS Code integration. You'd be able to push it to ServiceNow and have the Git repository that is more traditional. Phil says you are still on the same instance. That is true. That is true. You might not benefit from Git. One thing that is cool about it, though, and maybe the VS Code may be a solution in and of itself for multi-developer environments, because what happens is if you try to push and there's a conflict, like what you have locally does not match what's in the server, it'll raise a conflict and give you a chance to reconcile it.
Oh, that's nice.
Which
like
is
when you're doing update sets.
Yes.
Sets, yeah.
Except it's not update sets. It's like live while you're pushing your save.
Okay.
So like, let's say that you and Learn were both working in the same instance on the same widget at the same time. One of you is going to win that battle.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't use the VS Code plugin, the person that wins overwrites the other person's stuff in there, and the only records you have is that it happened is the history. You have to go back into history and find what you need.
Oh, that's awful.
In VS Code, you'll still have your copy. She'll still have her copy, and there will be a conflict when one of you tries to push it.
Which one is the...
And you say, and you also have the chance to merge as well, much like with update sets.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more protection in there when using the VS Code plugin.
So that means there's a lot less grumbling when they're committed and you find out that stuff didn't do what you want.
Right. And then you get all kinds of, you don't have to worry about the editor automatically logging you out, and then you hit save but it doesn't save.
Oh.
That problem goes away. You also have all kinds of plugins for Visual Studio Code that simply don't exist in ServiceNow. You have really enhanced capabilities with your macros that you can do, which I think is what Phil was mentioning on the syntax editor macros. So, I mean, there's a lot of superpowers in VS Code, and ServiceNow has been opening up a lot of opportunity, both in the web component development tool, the Now CLI, the Visual Studio plugin, a lot of tools that enable you to make more use of Visual Studio Code. And for those of us that are on the pro code side, it really opens up a lot of opportunities. Pro code side. Phil says the problem is really, regardless of how you maintain your code base, is if 5 devs are all touching the same artifacts at the same time.
You're gonna have
which
a
comes
bad
down
time.
Yeah, and one of the Phil says, which comes down to app design and why utils are bad. Absolutely. And one of the advantages that I do find in using this... Oh, it went away. Go back to my remote. Not that one. Go back to my remote Explorer.
Why did it go away?
Because it likes to open in the same... It's alright, we'll fix it.
Doesn't like you.
So one of the things with multi-developer environments is that what you have to manage is conflicts. That's the most important thing. This other most important thing is the ability for a developer to test what they are doing without interfering with other developers' work.
Yeah.
This Glide Fast Labs thing here is really designed to do that, because what it does is it builds a distribution bundle. This can then be used as a script include. It can be used as a UI script. It can be used as anywhere that an inline anonymous self-executing function, the IIFEs, you can turn around and build using ES6 source code. You can build that into a bundle and then take that bundle to ServiceNow. And you can use Jest for testing this code. And so you can actually have a multi-developer environment outside of ServiceNow, test the code, get it to where you want it, use a Git repository, and then push that code to ServiceNow once everything tests and is ready to go.
It's beautiful.
So there are options for multi-developer environments, but a lot of the time you're better off, you're better off moving to Git, and yeah, probably separating yourself from some of the platform development tools a little bit and going a little deeper on pro code. ServiceNow's multi-developer stuff, you only have one environment, and that's the limitation, is you have one development environment. And development environments for ServiceNow cost a lot of money, and until ServiceNow gives us the ability to, within a Docker package, which they have, to turn around and...
What was that?
Allergies, little
Okay.
dust in the air,
Yeah.
but they might already have the capability.
Okay. That was kind of loud.
It was.
Please don't wake up the toddler.
Sorry, my bad. But, if they were to offer the ability to run those local environments on like a Docker environment, maybe we could get to the point to where we had true multi-development environment capabilities.
Until then, I'll just enjoy the fact that I'm the only portal developer that goes on a project most of the time, because it is hard when you're working in the same widget. Like I was working with another developer on a project that I'm still on right now, and she and I work very, very well together. But it's hard. Hey, are you in the widget? No. Okay, I'm gonna go in the widget, and we had to like go back and forth, and it was just a mess.
Yes. And this
was under like the best of circumstances. She's a really good scripter and everything.
Yeah. And even with unless you build tools in ServiceNow, there are limitations. Like this StoryForge app is being developed here because this bundle goes into an Angular provider. A JS dependency. If you include multiple JS dependencies, the browser has to download all those individual dependencies. If I'm trying to modularize an application like this, all of these would be individual downloads from ServiceNow.
And that would be very...
That's awful.
Heavy.
That's terrible. So building it into this environment where I can create a bundle and drop that bundle into ServiceNow, so much better experience. Now, like 50 minutes ago, an hour ago, I said 10 minutes.
Yeah, you totally did. And then you started talking about all the things and little story of our lives.
Everybody's really excited about this, and we're all like contributing, and the conversation's flowing, and
it's nice. It's cool. We're having fun. I'm making comments that you're missing because you're speaking so passionately, and we're all laughing.
So yeah, at the end of the day, that's the direction we're going. Next time we will pick up on we'll pick up on actually implementing some stuff on our now Army Knife to integrate to ServiceNow. We'll start with that. Hello, Sarah. Hello, my name is Sarah. That's Sarah with an H.
That's what it's gonna say. It has to say that. Yes.
And so we will give that a shot, and then time provided, we may go a little further on starting to try and rip code out of ServiceNow. So with that, I want to... What?
Will we have a thing?
Thing?
A visual thing next time?
Yes, we will.
Oh, maybe it'll make me actually like put on pants.
I may end up setting up a few things behind the scenes to get us there, because I have to install some additional packages, set a few things up, so that we can actually do work next time.
I was talking about the camera so they can see your pretty face.
Oh, those visuals.
Yeah.
I mean, I got those already.
Hashtag priorities, man.
Ready, ready, ready. You better duck.
Oh my God,
You
do
better
not
duck.
turn it on.
You better duck. You better
turn it
duck. You better duck. See? Hi, everybody.
Oh my gosh, you're terrible.
You're actually kind of off screen right now.
No, I'm not.
Take a look. You'll see.
I don't trust you. The trust I have in you, my husband, does not go that far. You can show him my Star Wars poster.
Star Wars poster.
Yeah.
Um,
Now I'm just going to hang out here because you can't be trusted.
See, now it's trying to point at you. I'm trying to keep it off you, but
anyway, so next time we'll have visuals.
So next time we will have visuals, I guess. And Sarah will continue to hide behind the keyboard. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and hope to see you next time.
Bye.